And we're back. Hi, everybody. Here we are. We're a little punchy from exhaustion.
Yeah. Even though our most of our stuff is over, it's still not really over.
It's not over ever. No, it's gonna be over though. I actually. Let me get through the show first. We're so tired. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Welcome to the Smart to Noise Ratio Pro Audio Podcast. This is episode 27. I'm your humble host, Jon Dayton. To my left, in an equal state of exhaustion, is Anth Kosobucki.
Hey there.
Co-host in residence. It's probably a bad idea.
Do you want me to mute that?
It's going to be hard enough just to have the moving picture going. We're watching Colbert Reports.
I'll find that Yule log channel.
That exists.
Oh, yeah.
We had that on VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah, my dad thought it was the greatest thing when it came out on DVD. She's like, it's like having a real fireplace. But, Dad, we have a real fireplace 3 feet behind the TV. Why don't we just move the TV over just a little bit?
Have you ever seen the director's cut of that?
With commentary? The play-by-play audio commentary?
5.1. It'll break your skull. It's amazing.
Yeah, half an hour might be all we get out of this one.
Yeah, so this might be a short one this week. Right, hang on, I gotta... Well, I'm gonna pause it and see what we got. I forgot to reassign one of the tracks. Hang on. Okay, now that you can hear, Anth, I don't know if you missed anything.
Nothing important, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'll see what kind of magic I can work on that in post-production. Good thing I looked. We could have talked for ages. This probably would have been like the 90-minute podcast that only one mic was on. Funny thing, that actually happened to the Audio Nowcast guys. Last one they did.
I didn't
Only one mic was up for a whole show. They had to bag it.
How about the O'Reilly Factor? Neither one of us is really going to watch that.
Oh, whatever. If the magic box is on, I'm going to stare at the moving pictures. Is SpongeBob on at this hour? That's about my speed right now.
College basketball. That's not going to be interesting at all.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. The wood is so soothing to
so bright.
An ex-carpenter like myself. The parquetry floor is making my day right now.
We should talk about some audios.
We should. Speaking of the Audio Nowcast, I'm amazed at this. We beat those guys to the press with our podcast on the Slate, whatever it is, Raven thing.
MTX, yeah.
They spent a few minutes on it on their last podcast, which was the date on it was like end of November 2012. So look those guys up, audionowcast.com. Monster bunch of guys out in LA, post-production monsters, studio monsters. But anyway, they some of them have actually seen and touched the Slate Raven, and
I think that's the difference. We can talk about stuff all day long.
They
actually
had
play with that crap.
They had the same stuff to say that we did. Like,
really?
I don't want to sit at that. Cool, but anyway, if you're interested in that and want to know some more about it,
I wonder if the Slate MTX comes soaked in Abercrombie cologne.
It comes with a big bag of...
It smells like Kevin.
It comes with a large bag of powdered mahogany for you to snort off its shiny surface. But anyway, enough about that. Shoot, I had something else in mind. Oh, the new Behringer digital desk. Did we ever do an actual episode about that?
No, we were going to take a trip out there and, jobs and stuff happened. So
well, this Ike is still, he's gonna, it's a busy season for him too, so when he gets done, gets some things wrapped up, he has promised us at least a write-up and possibly more on the X32. Although I'm starting to see from other people on the boards, guys who've bought them, they're being put into service in rental houses already. They hold their own online arrays, point source systems. Really? Yeah. Yeah. So, and now it's a race to find out like who's going to get one first, me or the church where I work, because we both want them. Might actually solve my monitor situation. I might be able to.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Yeah. You've got enough patch upstairs.
Have a side stage monitor mix at front of house. Yeah, no, it's done.
Oh, I know.
That's what they do at that butthole club that Steve mixes at, except it's a Mackie sitting next to an Allen and Heath at front of house. It's a glorious setup. Well, I might have to build a proper split into the patch bay if I'm going to do that.
You get what you pay for over there.
Which is not much. All right, so that's a little bit of a wrap-up on what's been going on. We were going to... it's only been a couple of days since the last podcast. Like, normally we get a week. You know, we'll do them. We're doing them all Wednesday nights, or we'll do them all Saturday nights. So there's sort of a full week in between. Just did one Saturday night, the one that you just heard, and now it's Wednesday, and Ant's going to be out of town, so we decided to cram one in here.
Yep.
And I called him up today about lunchtime. I was like, "What do you got?" Because I got nothing.
I got a bowl of dill dip, and
which was heavenly, by the way. That rye is like a little.
It was fresh this morning. It was still warm when I picked it up.
It's like a little cloud made of wheat and rye and dill.
Gluten.
And gluten. Oh, the gluten.
The gluten and the MSG really make it kick.
Oh.
That's what makes us sleep at night. The MSG.
Speaking of sleeping at night, I'm down to only double my normal caffeine intake, up from triple. I can't wait to get back to just regular caffeine intake, but it's still necessary. Anyway, we decided to talk about Mixdown and managing large projects, since that's what we're both kind of doing at the moment. And by large projects, we just mean high track count. That might mean something different to us than it means to you. When I was a young guy, 16 tracks was quite a few, and now the one I'm mixing down today is at 52 at last count, and that's not every track is audio. 32 of those are actual audio tracks, and then I did a lot of subgrouping, and then off of those subgroups did sends out to effects, so I could have my effects come back in on a handle like I do on an analog console.
And then you hear like Pensado or Dave Pensado talking about stuff. He's like, "Yeah, I got this project in. It's only like 120 tracks. Like, for what?"
It had 15 shaker tracks on it. I just muted 12 of them. I've heard that story twice now on his podcast. So I guess we're going to talk a little bit about organization as much as we can. I've been mixing. I started mixing at before 10 this morning, mixed straight through till 7 o'clock at night, and then mixed a 2-hour rehearsal for the house band. And I had one track left to do. I had 14 tracks. One of them was done yesterday. I did 12 today, and I have one more to do in the morning because I just can't hear anymore.
Yeah.
But did all the things that guys say to do. You know, if you're gonna make a record in a day, the first thing is you have to take breaks. You just have to.
And you mix quiet.
And mix quiet. Yep, I caught myself mixing too loud fairly early on and reduced my level. So I was in my chair in front of my monitors for math 9 hours, except for a quick trip to Burger King and the occasional stroll to the bathroom, and then spent 2 hours mixing at service levels at 92, 94 dB A-weighted out in the space, and my ears feel fine. I can still hear, so it's possible to manage and not get ear fatigue. I have brain fatigue, which was my problem. You just can't hear stuff anymore.
Yeah, like your brain just tunes stuff out after you edit something for so long and mix a certain thing for so long. You just me particularly, like I just stop listening to things. Like after you screw around with a certain subgroup or a certain effect send for such a long time, you're like you just don't notice it anymore.
Is your wife singing, or is that the TV?
She's got the TV going upstairs.
But, all right, we'll come back to track management. I want to kind of talk about my philosophy about mixing something down. Last year, this same project just took entirely too long, and it was less tracks, a lot less, actually. So I said, all right, I'm gonna take a day and mix everything. Now, I had already done just a rough mix, just all faders up, tame a couple things that were going to get out of hand, print them. Had that. I've listened through a couple of times. My boss has listened through, so we kind of know where we stand. Sat down, started the mix. Started with actually the hardest stuff first. The one I did yesterday was just a 2-mic up of a chorus, and that actually worked out really cool. I had a mid-side configuration. I think I talked about this last podcast, but the Mixdown was terrifying me because there were some parts that were not so good in all the captures. I had 3 nights worth of this, and so I started with that one because I knew I was going to have to comp it. So I built a new session, got all 3 tracks from each day up, and then started cutting and spacing and lining up so that everything worked out. And I spent 20 minutes on it, got it up there, and then just for kicks, hit play. And the cool thing is that the good stuff outweighed the bad stuff enough that I was able to use every single track, and it sounded amazing. So instead of having a 12 voice female chorus, I have a 3 voice female chorus. It's a mile wide stereo. It still sounds spacious, even in mono, even on a TV. It took a little massaging because that one wasn't done to a click, so I had to kind of line things up a little bit. The key was going through and getting the start of every phrase on, and then if they didn't finish at exactly the same time, picking two of the nights to fade out so that there was only one night's worth of final consonants in there, and then dump a big impulse response reverb on that, convolution reverb, and boom. I can't wait to play it for you guys. I'll have a sample here for you when it's done. So I had that one out of the way. That one I actually spent most of yesterday on that one. Today was the more straightforward rock stuff, and I said, all right, I'm gonna just mix. Like, the goal is to get these 13 tracks done. I got through 12 of them. And I didn't have a specific way of going about it. Like, the first track had, it was just like vocal, piano, pads, done. Like, there was nothing. Oh, and violin. So there's, the first one was piano, strings, string pad, and violin. Nothing to it. And that one took 2.5 hours.
That sounds about right.
Because there's nothing. Like,
the less you have to mask stuff, the harder it gets.
Yep, everything's got to be perfect, and it's all got to fill the space right. And then I sat down to mix, like, the regular rock stuff. And here's where it really came in. I did very little work in solo. I knew there were a couple of things from listening back that I was going to go in and fix, so I really try not to start off mixing in solo. So I went in, I did my couple little fixes, EQ fixes, gain fixes, and then almost everything I did was through the whole mix. So, like, if I'm adjusting EQ on the bass, I'm doing it in, like, it's in position in the mix. Because every adjust, I don't know. I've had mixes turn out bad. Like, they sound overproduced and not in a shiny 80s production kind of good way. If you go in and you surgically sculpt every track and then you put them together, you've probably missed out on some good interactions between the tracks.
I think the only thing that I'll do a little bit differently is I guess it wouldn't totally be soloing stuff out, but like a drum group. Like, I'll just listen to the drums as the drums, and then, like, when I track bass, I've got an SVT in my office, so I'll double mic that. I'll put a D112 and a 57, and then double track a clean track and a preamp track. So I'll get 4 or 5 bass tracks, and then group all those together and kind of build it into one final track, and then same thing with the drums.
I did a lot more group listening. I'll listen to the drums as an instrument, and if I need to, solo a channel or two here or there.
Right.
And I'll listen to, like, a pair of acoustic guitars as an instrument, and my 4 guitar mics as an instrument, and my keyboard group and such. And that's helpful to zone in on a group and then zoom back out, but very little single track soloing unless I'm really trying to fix something nasty. Yeah. And I jump around. Like, I'll hit play, I'll go back, I'll jump to the end. I had kind of intended to start with, like, the biggest point of each song, but the songs that were picked and the way my boss, arranged them and conducted them, instructed the band to play them, the builds are in there. So, like, it's not a lot of work for me. Like,
you don't have to automate all that stuff in. That's
my bands are super at that too, where, like, the piano will just be out there, like, standing out at a given point because of what the rest of the band did, and all I got to do is just touch it up a little bit. So, like, that element of the mixing is sort of already figured out for me by some arrangements that were very good to begin with, and then my boss touched them up. So I'll just jump all over the place until I'm pretty sure I've heard every second of the song, but more what I'm concentrating on is, like, in each section, making sure I'm looking at each instrument and group of instruments and making sure I'm hearing what I want out of them. Like, are they leading? Are they laying back? I'm bringing them up, putting them down. Do a lot with panning. And then I would get to a point where I would listen to the song once all the way through, and if anything was really sticking out, I'd fix it, and I'd say, okay, that's it, print. And I would print it in real time with the speakers up, and I would shut my eyes and lean back in my chair and just listen and maybe make a couple of notes. But that was a chance to just let it really wash over me, because you'll just keep tweaking. Like, you'll never get off a song if you let yourself, if you don't make yourself get off it. So, I would work until I was down into really fine details, and I on purpose left things a little bit undone. Like, I put them in a folder labeled, finals for approval. which I hope didn't deceive my boss too much. But, the realizing that once I was done with this today, we're going to sit down, hear it in the morning with fresh ears, mixes that are 90, 95% done. Listen in another room on other speakers with fresh ears, cup of coffee in the morning. He and I will sit down. We might listen to a couple songs twice, but we'll go right through, notebooks open, take a bunch of notes. I'll go in the back for 2 hours, fix them, print them again. We'll listen after lunch, and if there are any final little notes, I'll tweak those out, and then I'll go through and do a little mastering. It's hot already. I'm at like -3. But I didn't want to have a ton of mastering to do. Like I'm finding when I'm working on my own stuff, it's a lot easier for me to shoot for -3 and do just a little bit of mastering instead of putting it at -6 for somebody else to do a lot of mastering.
Yeah, I guess it depends on exactly what you're going for. Like certain stuff, the more even keeled, like all across the board, for rock stuff that I'm doing, I'll try and keep around -3. But some of the more dynamic stuff that I want to get a little bit bigger, I'll take down to -6 just to give it a little more room to breathe, and open up later on.
Yep.
But
now the cool thing that I've had happen is I just gotten so used to working in mono. Like my system's in mono. I record in mono. Like every service, I record all the music, but it's in mono. Well, after our big production, I jockeyed a bunch of stuff around so that I would have a free matrix output so that I could take a stereo band recording. So now I got a 2-mix, and last week it was amazing what you could hear. It was really amazing. So like I played it for the guys, and they were like, whoa. And I was like, you see? I'm not just being whiny about having to mix in mono. Well, anyway, and this just sort of happened in the mix, but I had I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but a goniometer, a stereo width meter. You got the X crosshairs and a little scribble in the middle. And as I went along through the day, the album kept getting wider and wider up to the big finish. Which is kind of cool. Like with the plot of the movie, like it starts with a pretty narrow focus, and you find out more, and the big finish is
nice.
That little scribble in the middle is touching the edges.
Nice.
So I won't get into every little trick and tidbit, but at any rate, that's the plan. Is you do a bunch of listening to rough mixes, get the project in your head, find out. This is easy because I've been working on this project from go.
Right.
But if it's somebody else's project, you got to hear the roughs, hear what their intentions are, talk to them, find out what their expectations are. And then when you sit down to mix it, you're not Bruce Sweeting, they're not Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Get it done.
Exactly.
So just force yourself to, after you get it pretty good, just stop and print it. And get through, you can easily, if I hadn't had to stop for rehearsal, I could have mixed all 14 songs today.
Right. Just minor touch-ups later.
Right. And I've heard guy after guy after guy say it on Dave Pensato's podcast that's just the way to do it. Like, it doesn't make sense to stay up until 4 a.m. to bang something out if you don't have to, when you can, go home, kiss your wife, get a good night's sleep, come back and hear it over a cup of coffee in the morning, and, with your brain reset, hear exactly what needs to be done, and in a couple of hours bang it out. Because what happens is your brain stops responding to repetition. Mm-hmm. So that's why pop music's so annoying. It's just it goes straight into the background.
Yep.
So during the course of your day, taking breaks helps break up the repetition, or jumping from song to song. That can help your continuity if you're trying to get a whole album's worth of stuff to sound exactly the same.
Or listen to something totally different.
Right. If you're working on a bluegrass album, throw some Slayer in there. If you're doing pop, listen to hip-hop. Just change it up completely. Get your brain out of gear. And it doesn't take much. I mean, one song of something else, at a reasonable volume, that'll reset everything in your brain and let you hear the same song that you've been working on.
I'll actually go, I'll bust out of my mix room, throw something on in the background, go and sit in the live room on a couch.
Yep.
For 2 or 3 songs, not pay attention to what's going on, just have it almost as white noise, and then go back in, and then hit something new, or even go back to what I was working on before. But there's a point that, I mean, unless you're doing it professionally all the time, that you need a little bit of a break.
All right, so that's the procedure. We can talk about track management a little bit. I had 32 tracks, which I broke down to And routing's really easy in Reaper. Like, it took seconds once I finally figured out the quick way to do it. There's a couple slow ways to do it and a really quick way to do it. So I took my 10 drum tracks and had a couple auxiliary percussion tracks. I eventually moved those off to their own group after a while, but got the drums all under a handle. And when I say handle, I just mean a subgroup. So they're all routed to a channel that doesn't have a track in it, but all the audio is taken. I disable it from going to the main mix from those drum channels, route it to this submaster, and that allows me to, if I'm applying gates and compressors to individual drums, I can then do some compression on the kit as a whole, or on sections of the kit if I wanted to. So I did that, and then I did all the same channels to an identical group with a banging compressor on it. Like, I just crushed it obnoxiously. I mean, you listen to it by itself and you're like, what? But a really simple way to get fat drums. Like, it's a lot of work to get compression set up, like stereo compression on a drum submix, and have it come out really nice without pumping or sounding weird. So and you lose all the transients if you're not really good at setting the attack and release. So you leave one drum group completely unprocessed, the other one smashed to oblivion, and then you bring the smashed one up underneath until the drums are as fat as you want them to be, and then you're getting all the transients unprocessed and all the fatness totally processed, but not so loud that you hear all the weirdness.
Right. And
easy money.
And both of us do that a lot with vocals, too. Like, especially for lead vocals. There's, like, one of the neatest things I ever did was sending out super rough, barely mixed tracks and just doubled my lead vocal, smashed one. They're like, that vocal sounds really tight. It's nice and big the whole time, but there's still some dynamic. And I'm like, yep. We just set that sucker to all buttons in.
Set that sucker for nuke. That was what I did for my overheads going to, so like I smashed my overheads, to the get-go. I found a vintage preset. I hardly ever use presets for anything. Like, I've got a couple that I built myself for situations that I get into all the time, but I'm a big one for not trusting anyone else's work, even my own, from another session. I want to do what's right for the session that I'm on. So found a vintage setup for the overheads and then tweaked it to get it working right. So that's the smashed overheads went to the regular drum channel, and then they went over to Smashland and got really smashed. So I had some Raintree stuff. So the cymbals just came out awesome, despite not being in the Glenn Johns configuration that I'm so fond of this week. I just had I had AB drum overheads. I had a couple of feet in between them. Then what else? Bass was all by itself, straight to the main mix. I had a keyboard group, which was piano, pad, and organ, on 3 separate keyboards. And I took the pad and doubled it and panned it left and right and put 10 milliseconds delay on one of them, just to kind of let me push those pads to the outside of the mix, so make some room, because string pads can really muddy up vocals. Acoustic guitars, had 2 of those. Those went to a group. I had 2 electric guitars, 4 mics total. That went to a group. And then I had a lead vocal group and a backing vocal group, because I wanted to treat those differently in terms of compression, EQ, similar effects. I wound up sending both of those groups to the same reverb. And then, out of my groups, I came out of the drum group to a drum reverb, out of the acoustic guitar group to a reverb for that, vocal reverb, and I didn't want reverb on my pad, so I put that right on the keyboard channel and just left it alone. Once I found a sweet spot for it. So anyway, the goal was to like sort of mix on the channels and do all sorts of stuff. And then once I was down to really start getting into my automation, do most of it on the groups. Yeah. Because it's a pain in the butt. Like even with double rows of faders, like, I can fit a lot of faders on a screen, but I still couldn't fit them all. So like I can park in front of 8 submasters and my effects returns and mix from there. Super convenient. And if there's a little something I gotta, spill out to go run down the session and change the balance between 2 guitar mics, or, bump up a pad or something. But that made automation really a lot simpler for me. Like my my method for automation, to jump again, like, don't worry, I got this. I know where we're going.
It's all right. I'm watching college basketball that I don't care anything about, so go on.
Perfect. For automation, the goal was to go through and just mix on the faders until I had it so I could just about leave it set. And then everywhere that I thought, like, oh, that should be a little different, then I would go in and put a little automation. I jumped the gun a little bit because I sort of already knew. I didn't have a list in my head, but from having mixed 2 band rehearsals, 3 full company rehearsals, and 3 performances, I knew what needed to happen. Right. So in this case, again, I lucked out because I've been on the project for an age. So I guess I skipped that time that on somebody else's project, I would have had to get familiar with everything. Right. So I kind of dove in and I'm like, all right, I know the pads want to do this here and I know the guitars are going to do that there because it's all committed to memory. But I still tried to do like sort of fixing automation on the channels and mixing automation on the groups. And that was a big help, keeping things straight. Because last year, as I was doing all the automation just on the channels, hadn't figured out how to do subs yet.
Like it's rough
in Reaper.
If you need to get it out quick. If you got some time, then it's all right.
But. Yeah, but it's a pain in the butt. Like, why put yourself through that? Like, if you're going through and, working, building dynamics in or removing dynamics or changing balances on the channels, then you got to grab all of those points to do anything else.
What was kind of neat, my drummer dropped off a, I don't know if it's a Mackie product or something else, but it's an Alpha Track. It's one single flying fader.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to get one of those.
Yeah.
Presonus makes one, Behringer makes one.
It's older. I mean, like, it took me a while to dig out the right drivers because it wanted to only work with PowerPC stuff. Finally got that sorted out, and then it was weird. I had to route whatever I wanted to draw the automation into a MIDI channel, and then re-import that back into whatever channel it was. But
that's bogus.
Yeah, it's old. Like, it doesn't. It says it works with Pro Tools, but Pro Tools like 6.
Pro Tools 3.
Yeah.
You have to open up Studio Vision for the MIDI functionality.
So that was kind of a pain, but even just having one fader to drive. Oh my gosh. It just, I don't know about you, but drawing in point-to-point automation, like, I've thought about going out and buying a Wacom pad on my own dime just so I don't have to screw around with that anymore.
You know what I do? I slap that sucker in write.
Mm-hmm.
I bump guitar solos on the mouse wheel.
Mm.
So if it's start finger in the middle, I can roll up 5 dB or down 5 dB. Or if I start at the bottom, I can roll up 10 dB. Yeah. Worse than nuts. But
I don't. There's not a single person that actually enjoys drawing in automation on a computer. That's why big studios have consoles, or even just the stupid little Alpha Track that I've got. Just
there is something to be said for having your finger on a fader for some things. Mm-hmm. Although actually the trackpad on my Mac is not bad because I can just hover the mouse over a fader. And I don't have to, like, keep it there. I can you move it over there with one finger, and then you put 2 fingers down, and I can just scroll up and down. I don't have to watch it. Like, I don't have to look and make sure it's staying on there. Like, I can put the mouse on a fader and then just stare off into space while I mix, and then I'm not, the notches on the fader tray aren't fooling me into believing what my ears aren't hearing.
Right.
Wow, we made it to the almost halfway point.
Good God.
That's pretty good.
Wow. I don't think we're getting that far.
Yeah, I mostly just rambled on, but hopefully that was interesting to somebody. I'm trying to think. That thing I was talking about last podcast about using like a straight-up guitar channel and a pan guitar channel to pull the solos into the center, that didn't work as well as I thought it would. But I also wasn't going for wild panning in the guitars. Like, I was doing a lot of because the guitars were so essential to a lot of the cuts that they were on. I had to keep them close to the middle.
I was thinking about, there was a project that I mixed last year, and there was this I had to remix the track after I did it. They weren't a big fan of it. They didn't think it was as cool as I did. But there's this big, giant, ripping bend into, like, held out for I think 2 bars, just lots of sustain on it and stuff. And I went kind of old school and put an auto pan on it. It was like, this was one of the, I actually sent it, I had to send it to Brian Moore. Like I had to get 3 tracks mixed, like from pretty much nothing mixed to sent to master in, I think, 10 hours or something like that. And by the end of it, I was just like, all right, last song, title track of the EP. It's like, how cool would it sound after my brain's totally fried and everything? How cool would it sound for this to sweep in? That would sound awesome. No, I still think it sounds cool. I think I'm going to change it again. So I'm remixing all that stuff. But they're like auto pan. Really, I was like, well, it wasn't really auto pan. Like I drew it in, so it's not.
Did it just
auto pan?
But it wasn't like a slow chorus. It started in the left speaker and
like right into the center. Like it was.
Now I did that a bunch on mine because I would have like I didn't do it with guitars, but with a lot of the atmospheric stuff. The thing I found, though, is, like, if you go from hard left to hard right or from hard out to center, cheesy. If you go from 30, pan left 30 to center, or, if you're on knobs, if you go from, like, 9 o'clock to noon or from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock with a move, it still moves for people, but it's not like, oh, first day with your new pan knob, eh, jerky?
No, it was definitely hard left to about 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it just stuck there.
Friends don't let friends pan drunk.
I don't think so. No, I think I had sobered up by then.
But I was able to do some cool stuff with the vocals. I didn't have a ton of vocalists on this one. Like, I'm used to Sunday morning. I've got like 1 or 2 leads and then 4 backup singers, sometimes a 5th. On the record, I had, a lead singer and usually 1 backup singer, sometimes 2, though, and sometimes on the same song. Mm-hmm. Like, certain sections would have a single backup, certain sections would have 2. So I would, when they were both singing, automate it so they were both panned out about 10 and 2. And then when it was just the one girl backing up the lead, I'd pan her back to the center. And then there was one cool moment where like the line is like the lion's mighty roar, and there's cymbal crashes, and the whole band comes screaming in again. But the girl behind it does this little like dip. She says the word roar, but she dips into it. It's like the frickin' Lion King, dude. It's one of my favorite moments in the show.
Elton John somehow got into a church.
So yeah, I panned that one pretty drastically. Well, I don't know, from like hard left to like what you did with that thing. But it was also like that same part was in the,
just say it.
That same part was in the backing track too, and that one was panning the other way. So it's sort of
so someone was on a little bit of acid when they.
Hey, what? No,
no. That's why we can't have bright lights in here. John gets a little freaked out.
The LEDs freak me out. I'm going to get you some lighting with a higher refresh rate, or let me build a better power supply for these things.
We don't, in case anybody's wondering.
He said panned hard from like 10 to 2, waved his hand in front of his face, and I just saw 4 flashes of hand. Like, he even moved it kind of quick.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta stop doing that. No, last year I refused to put up Christmas lights at my house because I put up Hanukkah lights.
Jew lights, in common parlance.
So this year,
his term, not mine.
I bent, and we bought Christmas lights. So we haven't turned the actual living room lights on in a while because these suckers are freaking bright. It's like a college dorm room in here, really. They're strung around the ceiling.
I'm never sure if they're home or not when I walk up to the front door because the house looks the same day in and day out, day and night.
Our electric bill has actually gone down quite a bit since we put them up.
Thinking about doing something for my house, but I have to build a better power supply for these things because I can't stand the flickety flick. It's too obnoxious.
These are high quality, $12 a set.
Yeah.
They're Philips.
You need a full wave rectifier, even though a bridge will work.
For my living room, okay.
You need bigger filter caps. What are those Hammond parts doing over there? Let's build a power supply for your LEDs out of that. How's that for a conversation starter?
Walk through it while we're going to power the whole house off of one of those transformers. I don't use that much juice.
Bet it'd sound great.
60
Honey, have you noticed how much better the microwave sounds since we started powering it with a Hammond PS?
We've been doctored just enough to get all the 500 right out of there, so I don't throw up all the time.
All right, so what else have we got?
Strange grouping patterns. One of the things that I started doing, one of the guys that came in and I worked with, I think in April or May this year, we had some routing issues at my church, and because it's a Yamaha, really, a couple of the channels just decided to stop working, mainly the bass channel. So we ended up stripping out. He had a killer Heil mic. I think it's a PR40, which I want to get. It sounds so good. I had the Beta 52 and the Beta 91, and I think we even had an RE20 there and all that stuff. He's like, nah, I just need one. And stuck it in there. Wasn't even paying attention, just kind of threw it in. He's like, all right, kick. All right, good, your drum's in tune. And walked away. Like, no placement or anything. And so the bass channel stopped working. He's like, dump it on the kick in. Like, okay. He's like, I like having everything, like, I like having the kick and the bass together. Because back in the old days, like when I mixed on tape, all the fat stuff was on the outside because that got routed to the outside of the tape, right? So that's where all the, you got more space to dump all the bigger frequency stuff on. So what I actually started doing recently was, probably even in the last few days, was taking my bass group and stuffing it in the drums, in like the group of drums that I was doing, not in the in the subgroups or anything, but having it right next to the kick. And then even
like that idea,
because I mean, if that's that's the bass line of your music, that's what's driving everything. Maybe sidechain it, or if I've got 2 or 3 kick channels and then I've got 4 bass channels, just group 2 of them together, and then drive it like that. Maybe smash that just a little bit to get a nice cohesive factor to it. That was really all I had. But it's a neat thing to try out if you have some extra time and stuff. Try sticking, instruments that make sense stick together. Like, acoustic guitars and electric guitars, I don't really stick together too much. I'd more stick electrics and keys and pads, and then acoustics, and then like actual pianos together.
Nice. That was one thing I was missing, and I'm kicking myself for not doing it now. Is I could have taken a stereo in from my piano. Wished I had done it. I don't know why I didn't. This is what happens when you mix in mono too much, kids, is you start to forget that you have an ear on both sides of your head and that they both want attention.
Not just that
spot between your eyes where the... But, so yeah, I sort of out of protest at having to mix in mono, I just left the piano straight up the middle. Screw it. But I was trying to think, like, there weren't any holes. Like, there was nothing left to patch in. Well, you know what I would have had it done? Just come and borrow your Joe Meek for another pair of inputs. And I'm not sure I would have wanted to take piano on Joe.
Oh, you could have borrowed the Focusrite.
Yeah. I'm getting a Focusrite for Christmas.
That'd be nice.
I decided this. Just the baby one.
Comes
with the plugins, though.
Yeah.
Money.
Be careful with those.
Don't hurt yourself, kid.
Well, no, I've had issues where mine just stop working after a month, and I've got to go and put the installation code back in, the registration code, and I've only got one registration code left, but it's only on one machine. I don't even have it installed on a second computer, so I have to call up the nice people in England and try and sort that stuff out.
Sounds worth doing. All right. Trying to think of. I was on the boards this weekend on Reddit, and somebody mentioned this plugin, and it was a little bit like, even with a link to it, it was still kind of hard to find. So it's definitely like something from the nether regions of the interwebs. But and I haven't tried it yet, so I can't speak to it. But there's this program called Relive or Relive. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it supposedly can build dynamics back into a clipped track. And looking at the the waveforms on the demo site, I didn't listen to any of the examples. I got the VST files quick and bugged out of there because I was doing something else. But they take your basic 2x4 pop music track that's been hyper compressed and ran it through. They showed running it through all 3 different algorithms that this thing had, and lo and behold, there were some dips and swoops in there when they were done.
That's kind of neat.
And one of the guys further on, I came back to it later, looked at the post again, and one of the guys in the comments had done it on his own, like downloaded it, loaded up something that had been smashed. Actually, no, he purposefully smashed something. Might have even run it through a distortion plug-in.
The remastered version of Nevermind.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, he took something, smashed it, and ran it through the plugins and threw the waveforms back up there. And it's not going to totally fix a horrifically distorted track, but one that's been flat-topped from too much compression. Now, instead of trying to do something, it can be done, but it's really, really tricky to do with an expander. Because you've got to match the rate and the ratio and everything of the compressor that did the damage. That's compansion, that's called, is actually a good trick. Like if you need to save bandwidth, like they do this on 2-way radios, is the sending radio will compress it, the receiving radio expands it by the same amount, all the same settings.
Yep.
So you get more dynamic range out of the audio than the channel actually has to give you. But if you don't know what the original compressor did, you're kind of up the creek.
And wasting a lot of time.
Now there's a plugin. It's called Relive or Relive, not sure which, but check that out if you're one of those young bucks out there smashing your music and you need to get something back. That's the way to do it. And the podcast just ran out of gas.
I think that was it.
I was going to try and think of something else, but we are likely to just ramble at this point. So, we'll do the housekeeping, and then we'll get out of here. We're not quite to the 45-minute mark. All right, so we shorted you 15 minutes this week, but I think we more than...
It's Christmas. You guys have other stuff to do.
We got into you guys for a few minutes over the summer with all those extra long campfire side reports from the wilderness that we brought you. So we'll say, if you're not already a reader, check out the blog at smart2noise.blogspot.com. We're attempting to not post every day, but to post every weekday, which I failed this week, but I'm still in the throes of the Christmas season. And we're getting Anthony and Carl to start writing again. So there should be an article in there every weekday. We're going to take Saturdays off because that's a day where a lot of folks who are day jobbing it will catch up. Those of you that don't have gigs, I understand, will catch up of a Saturday, or maybe Saturday before you leave for the gig. So Saturday will be our day of rest, and then Sunday we will get the podcasts up for you every week that we do those, and those seem to be willing to happen pretty regularly. So that's that.
Twitter, Facebook.
Yep. We've actually gotten a couple new likes on Facebook since we started up again. And Facebook is a great way to get in touch with us. You can click around on the blog. We're not hiding. We're right there. A Facebook message is a great way to get some attention if you have a question for us. But we completely ignore Twitter. The Twitter feed just doubles up whatever we say on Facebook.
Yeah, if you really want to get just get a hold of me on my Twitter, and I'm pretty up on that.
Oh, you actually tweet?
Yeah. Good it's all the stuff that I can't say on my Facebook because people from work read that. That's why I have a Twitter.
And your Twitter handle's what? Oh, I know. We won't tell the folks at work.
It's just at Anth Kosobucki. I'm pretty sure I've exploited myself on the blog a few times, but if you go on the actual blog, I think my name is on there at the bottom of my posts and stuff.
Sweet. So that's on there, or I'm on the Facebook page at least once a day. So if you drop us a line there, we'll see that and get back to you. When questions come in, we do read every single thing that comes in. Questions that come in, we will sometimes, if it's something we've already answered, we'll point you to a blog post that we've already written, or if it's just a short answer question, I might just shoot you back right on Facebook. Although those really good thought-provoking questions that we get are ones that require a good deal of explaining. Those are the ones that we'll take and turn into a post or series of posts or drag out for the podcast. And that's the stuff we really like. That's what's keeping us going at this point, because we've written all of the basic how-to stuff that we can think of, and we're trying not to cover our tracks twice.
Right.
We're up to 250 posts.
Damn.
Pretty good.
Oh, I think that was the first swear word of the podcast. I said, damn.
Good for you. Way to keep that New Year's resolution.
crap, damn, ass, hell.
See how I made that sound like
we
you
need
had
that
kept
Simpsons.
It's
we need
not
that Simpsons soundbite.
For those of you just tuning in, Anthony hasn't kept his New Year's resolution from last year. It's that we started this year's earlier, which is that we, meaning Anth, is going to cuss less on the blog or on the podcast.
Pretty clean in writing.
So we're going to keep it to 10/9 Central network.
Not
NYPD
Blue.
Not NYPD Blue language. But being that we both work at churches, we had gotten a little sloppy in our language recently. Because let's face it, it's fun to cuss. Some days it's our only vice. But no, we're gonna keep that under control because we don't want to offend anybody more than we
already do.
More than we do just by our mere existence. Just ask my neighbors if you're not. John, you're not offensive. Oh no.
Watch.
Have you met my chickens? But I digress.
If I have to watch one more last 5 seconds of a basketball game, I'm going to smack something. We should end this soon.
Oh, are they recapping?
Oh, yeah. It's the same.
I hadn't noticed that it was a different game. It's the same guys talking about it, right?
No, that's college. I don't think they've got that many guys. All right, we should kill this.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in. This is the... Yeah, here I am.
Smart to Noise, John eating dill dip blog.
What'd you call me? Say that again.
Say it one more time. I dare you.
Doubled it. That's what you get when you put the snack table too close to me. All right. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. This has been the Smart... Actually, this reminds me of a band that I mixed at a Battle of the Bands one year. They're a bunch of old dudes. I'm going
to go get
a
drink.
Old dudes with, long white beards. Some of them. So they finish up the... No, they finished up the set, and they're like... The band name was the Horrified Onlookers. So, they introduced themselves once at the start, and they played their 20-minute set or whatever, and they finish it up, and they're like, we're the Horrified Onlookers, and so are you. Good night. I can't tell if he's laughing or drowning himself in the water filter. Come on, that's funny, right?
I don't even know what to do with that.
He's not even near the mic. All right. So we have not been the Horrified Onlookers, although you may have been.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And you're welcome. And by you're welcome, I mean you're welcome that we don't do video podcasting. The sweatpants situation is a little bit out of hand.
Even though I'm not Italian, you couldn't tell right now.
You're not Italian?
No.
Oh.
Not even
I thought your dad was.
No, he wanted to be Italian. That's why he named me Anthony.
Ah. All right. That's weird. I thought and your mom's not Italian? At all?
Nope.
Weird.
Hebrew.
All Hebrew. I feel like
Polish,
10%.
Polish and Hebrew.
All right.
One of the few last ones left.
I almost got you out of here, folks, without any nonsense. But anyway, we have been, with no further anecdotal evidence, we have been this Smart to Noise Pro... What are we? Smart to Noise Ratio Pro Audio Podcast.
Pro Audio. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll try and wrap things up
time.
and sleep some this week. Oh, enjoy your Christmas. I got a little Christmas present together for everybody. So if you're bored after all the presents have been unwrapped in the gift paper,
just don't open it at work.
No, it won't actually be posted. It's a post. It's a cool post. I found a little neat something. It's not strictly on a radio topic, but it's some of that cool behind the scenes stuff. So Christmas Day, if you're getting a little sick of the fam, if you've already built all the Legos and are tired of all the, I don't know what kids get for. What it's for is when you're sick of your family, you can pull out your iPhone and read a pretty cool article that I found. So check us out on Christmas Day. We'll have a little something for you, courtesy of the podcast and the blog. And I fell asleep twice during the last sentence. All right.
That's right. That's it.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.